After what was a very surprising and unusual turn of events of Josh Brolin apparently being offered the role of Hal Jordan on Lanterns, and although he did turn it down, it did show us that Hal is going to be significantly older than what we could have assumed. We have now gotten our Hal Jordan casting. I was very much hoping for the 44-year-old Chris Pine, but they actually went older than Josh Brolin, casting the 59-year-old Kyle Chandler in the role. Now, first and foremost, I will say that this is definitely a better casting than Josh Brolin could have been. He's 3 years older than Brolin, but he looks a lot younger. Brolin looks like he's in his 50s. Chandler could pass as someone in his 40s. Secondly, out of all of the rumored castings, which included Josh Brolin, Matthew McConaughey, Ewan McGregor, Timothy Olyphant, and Chris Pine, Chandler is the one, aside from maybe Chris Pine, who does look the most like Hal Jordan. So, having faced reality that Hal will be in his 50s, this casting was kind of a sigh of relief, because at least he does look like Hal Jordan, and at least, although he is even older, he's almost 60 at this point, he does not look his age, he looks a lot younger. In terms of his actual acting ability and suitability to the role, apparently he's really good. I can't speak to it much since I haven't actually seen him in much. I will say though, the one thing that I did see him in, which is The Wolf of Wall Street, he played a character that is kind of similar to Hal Jordan. He played an FBI agent named Patrick Denham, who did a pretty good job at being someone good at his job and also very charismatic, and that job was being a special law enforcer trying to take a bad guy down, very much like a Green Lantern, but obviously in real life. Then, having heard his recent voice from watching certain interviews, yeah, I could see him as Hal Jordan. All of this is to say that in a world where they are giving us a version of Hal Jordan who is in his 50s, this is probably the best possible casting for that, or at least one who is in his late 50s, because they probably could have found someone who's 50, which is a lot better of an age than 59, which is still crazy. He's double Superman's age. That feels so wrong. And aside from just feeling wrong, Hal Jordan's age does also hint at James Gunn's intentions for the character in this universe, which is that Hal Jordan's story is very likely to be told entirely within Lanterns Season 1, and he is unlikely to be sticking around for very long. I mean, he's 60 years old now. Imagine in 10 years from now, a 70-year-old Hal Jordan flying around the DCU. I really cannot see it. What this most likely means is that the DCU will be going the route of the DCAU, or the Tomorrowverse, making John Stewart the main Green Lantern of the universe. This is something that did work for the DCAU, less so for the Tomorrowverse, but I also think that nowadays it is a shame for a few reasons. For one, Hal Jordan as a character has never gotten a good live-action adaptation, and has only ever really gotten one live-action adaptation, so the fact that this next one is deviating so much from the typical Hal Jordan status quo, and most likely he is not sticking around for long, is a bummer, because that means that even now, after we finally got the Green Lanterns back in live action, and we are getting what I was thinking to be the quintessential live action DC universe, it is likely that we still will not have a quintessential live action Hal Jordan, and that kinda sucks. Secondly, back when the DCAU came out, the Green Lantern Corps lore was pretty limited compared to what it became the years following the end of Justice League Unlimited. Like, literally 2 years later is when it started. In those years, Jeff Johns wrote one of the best ongoing stories in comic history, greatly expanding the Green Lantern lore to the point where it feels like it could be its own universe and could be the basis for an entire Star Wars level cinematic saga. And at the center of this story and of this lore expansion was Hal Jordan, the main character, whose status as the first human Green Lantern Corps member and kind of the leader of the human Green Lanterns, his rivalry with Sinestro, which is something that is strongest with him versus any other human Green Lanterns, his romance with Carol Ferris, and while this is less relevant for this point, the fact that he came back to life, were all elements that were interwoven into the story, making it so that it can't really be told as effectively with another human Green Lantern. It is all about Hal Jordan, and I do think that that story and that era of the Green Lanterns also cemented Hal as the best character in the Green Lantern lore. Before that, I don't think that was necessarily true. And that's something that I've just wanted to see for so long. The Green Lantern Corps have immense cinematic potential based off just that. So, for one, I was kind of bummed when it was a show that was announced, and then it was confirmed to be terrestrial rather than cosmic. And now, I'm even more bummed because if, and hopefully when, Lantern spins off into a Green Lantern Corps movie series, it probably will not feature Hal Jordan, and if it does, he'll be so so old. Alternatively, he could be sticking around in the role of the main villain of the saga, which could be Parallax. Which, for those of you who don't know, during the only period of time where Hal Jordan was allowed to show any age, which could coincide with the age that he is now showing in this show, Coast City was destroyed by Cyborg Superman. He went crazy, became the big bad of one of DC's crises, and he died. And like 10 years later, it was confirmed that he was actually taken over by the entity of the Yellow Lantern Corps known as Parallax, which I guess is possible, but I'm not a huge fan of that idea. I simply just would have preferred a regular version of Hal Jordan, who is the main character of the Green Lantern series. And it sucks also because I do like the idea of the series, a veteran Hal Jordan mentoring the new recruit John Stewart, but they really just could have accomplished that by making Hal Jordan 45 years old, which would have meant that he was a member of the Green Lantern Corps for like 20 years if they had recruited him when he was 25, like in the comics. Which is way more than enough time to cultivate that veteran and what they were calling a legendary status as a Green Lantern Corps member. They did not have to make him 60. Basically, all of this is to say that there are elements of Lanterns that I am now very skeptical about. Actually, was always skeptical. I would have preferred for it to be a movie. I would have preferred for it to be set in space, and I really would have preferred for Hal to be a good 15 to 20 years younger. But let me know in the comments down below what you think, and thanks for watching.